Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Drummond, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. Well, hey everyone. Today I have someone very special with me. It's my bestie, my business partner, and she's literally the creative genius behind the Sisterhood Collective. So I'd like to introduce you to Lauren. You've met her before on some of the previous podcasts. You know, we have been through thick and thin together. We've been friends for about over 20 years. Don't want to say too much there and share my complete age with you. It's a little bit of a secret for some, but we've traveled the world together. We now are building businesses together. And Lauren's story is one of courage, resilience, and taking chances, which I'm really proud of her for. So today I wanted to tell you a little bit about that journey. We're going to have a bit of a conversation and share this with you. So grab a coffee, or if you're like us, maybe a vino, and let's get into it. So Junior,
yes,
welcome to our podcast. I'm super excited to be chatting to you today because literally I chat to you every day, but now I've hit record, which just, it gives you that little bit of extra pressure, doesn't it? I get a little nervous, sweaty palms myself. How are you feeling?
I've got sweaty palms and a glass of wine.
There you go. So what I thought we'd do is I wanted to go back in time a little bit and talk a little bit about, maybe is it 20 years ago? Let's rewind 20 years when we set off on a little bit of a wild adventure together. Do you remember what our mindset and lifestyle was back then?
Gosh, we could do anything we wanted. I lived in Melbourne and you were in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
I used to finish work on a Friday, catch the bus to the airport, jump on a plane. You'd pick me up, we'd go out.
And have a good time. And let's share that at another time because that was our cheeky days. But not long after that, we decided we'd go traveling together. And we chucked some backpacks on and we ventured across the world to Europe. Was it first?
Yeah, Europe.
And I think that's the thing. Back then, we were a little bit more fearless. We were willing to take a risk. We felt like we had this sense of freedom, which I guess you do when you haven't got children yet or necessarily mortgages and all those, grown-up things that you have to do. So the mindset there was a little bit freedom and stepping out into the unknown was more exciting.
It was. And we were also in our mid-20s onwards. It's not like we were just 18 and we were taking a gap year. We'd already were working and we just decided to go for it again.
When you think about it, what do you think the experience of being able to just, I guess, take a leap and move overseas and just travel, and to the point, by the way, we didn't even map out our whole journey. We literally bought a flight somewhere. I think we always started in Greece, one of our favorite places.
Santorini, yeah.
Santorini, 3 times I think we went there, didn't we? And we always, I knew that it was day one, we'd jump on the internet as soon as we landed and we'd book 3 to 5 days away. We were going to go anywhere because you used Skyscanner and you would just type in anywhere and we'd basically get the cheapest flight that was to a different destination that we hadn't been to before. So we didn't know where we were going, hence why we ended up in Switzerland one time, up in the snow with you wearing thongs.
Flip-flops, those who don't know talking about.
Oh, yeah, those. And me getting angry at you because we couldn't do anything because your little feet were blue. That was hilarious. Anyway, what do you think that experience taught you about stepping into the unknown?
I think that it's easier than you think, that anything is possible. It's not as hard as you think, that it's fun once you get there. And if we didn't like somewhere, we just move on. So it's that feeling of not feeling stuck, or just the excitement of what if. Obviously, we didn't have partners at the time, which makes a huge difference. Although people travel with their partners and it's the same kind of thing. We're like partners when we go traveling.
The lesson I took away from that and from what you're saying right there is that we just started. We just jumped.
Yeah.
And we fell on our feet. And we just kept going. It's literally the lesson of just start something. If you want to do it, maybe take a chance and just do that first thing that takes you towards doing that thing. And that's exactly what we did. And yeah, we did fall on our butt a few times, like sleeping in the train station in the middle of the night or wandering the island of Havar trying to find accommodation, remember? And we ended up bribing someone to stay in their dungeon. Sounds so dodgy.
Yeah, or getting the Italian stallion to drive us to the other end of the island.
When not even speaking the same language and just playing charades to get there. You know, and when I think about some of our journeys, I sit there and think, I think we actually got quite lucky, because I see some really, you know, real horror stories of people, young girls traveling these days. And we were a little bit flippant like that as well. We just took chances. But anyway, that's not what this podcast is about. They were the fun times, though, I must say. But yeah, the biggest lesson for me is just take a chance. Just take that step forward. I think you will always land on your feet. It may not be the way that you thought or had planned, but you will succeed in whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me as well is I always wanted to go traveling, but then I had a partner at the time that didn't want to go anywhere. And then you and I met and we hit it off straight away. And I was going to go overseas with somebody else and they pulled out, and you were going to be overseas anyway. And I think that was a big leap for me because I just went just to meet. That's where we started. We met in Santorini and yeah, just went from there. But I could have just not gone as well because I'd never sort of been overseas by myself before. I don't know what it was. I just did it. So maybe it was you forcing me to do it all the way back then as well. I don't know, but somehow got the courage to do it, and it was good.
Well, there's a lesson there. Find yourself a friend that, you know, pushes you to be the best version of yourself, or to do something for yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
Because we've definitely found that in each other. You being my person and all. All right, so we've learned some lessons right from the start. We've had a lot of fun along the way. We've traveled the world. I think there's a lot of stories we could pull out there, but that's for another day. But what happened, I think, the second time we went overseas is you ended up on the super yachts. So tell us a little bit about what life was like. Is it all this glamour that, you know, the media and even some of the stews that I've met have portrayed it to be, or not so much?
Yes, well, I guess if you've seen the show Below Deck, it is like that to an extent. They obviously script some of it or throw scenarios at them, but for the most part, it is like that. And dealing with the charter guests and the owners is like that. So I always say it was as much fun as unfun, and got to go to some amazing places, got to meet some amazing people, got to meet some not so amazing people. And then just after a while, it wore me down because family means a lot to me, and missing things and not being able to, even the small things like cooking for yourself, because you have personal chef on board and you do things, but they just make food every day. But it gets to you that you can't do what you want. You're in a small space with, you know, we had like 12 crew, and you work with them, you play with them, you do everything with them, and it just over time you grow. So some people move on, some people get stuck, some people get caught in the golden handcuffs where the money's too good and you try and leave and you just can't make that money easily or quickly. Like, people just decide to leave without having a plan. I think that's one of the biggest issues with that. But for me, then I ended up starting a family. So that was how my out. You can't have kids on the yachts.
No. Okay, so was there any sort of funny or pinch me kind of moments then from those glamorous days?
Well, obviously I met a lot of celebrities, a lot of billionaires, a lot of hanger-oners, and some people were really, really nice, and that made it worth it doing it. And then some people made you feel really small, and that made it not worth it. But there was definitely pinch me moments, the places that I got to go to and some events that I got to go to, which is all things that you sort of want to do when you're young and do that. It's just, there was so many opportunities that you could say yes to because you were always in a new place, going to a new country, meeting new people, and it was social. So you, even though you were with your crew, if you met someone else and they were doing something else, you just go with them. Like, say they were going to like Pompeii or something in Italy, and you're out and about and they're like, oh, we're going tomorrow. So you just say yes. Whereas at home here, you wouldn't just meet someone randomly in the bar and they're saying, hey, we're going here tomorrow. Do you want to do that? It was just, I felt like more opportunities to do some cool things were made available. And because you were in that space, it was I don't know how to really explain it, but it did make you grow as a person because you did things that you wouldn't normally do.
And so you got outside your comfort zone and tried different things that you wouldn't normally do in, you get stuck in a routine when you're home. And even I remember joining the army and leaving Perth, for example, and I'd come back 3 to 5 years later and my friends were still going to the same bars. They were still going to the same shopping centers. And sure, they would have been doing university and all those things too, but nothing had changed. And meanwhile, I was out traveling the world, going to, mini wars and things like that. But so I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it sounds like you don't want to say poo-poo on people there, but I think once you do more things, you're open to more opportunities because you see people doing things, and also from having to deal with intimidating people time and time again and seeing, the behind the scenes things with them. They're just people as well. So it was really good for my confidence and communication and, things like that. I kind of felt not invincible, but I felt like I could my communication skills were a lot better for having to deal with different types of people too, and different cultures and stuff like that.
You were confident.
Yeah. I got that confidence and then I lost it. But anyway, continue.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So you've gone off, you've lived a little bit of a glamorous and not so glamorous life, but you've been traveling the world, doing some amazing things, open to, exposed to so many incredible opportunities. And then you start a family. So you stop working.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you settle down and what happens then?
So I got pregnant, and then I guess my husband at the time continued on the yachts. So I came home to Australia to have our first child, and then the idea was to base us somewhere over in Europe. So we moved to Malta. I was there for 8 years.
And you didn't work at this time. You were doing mum duties and setting up family and navigating a whole new government system, hospital systems, all those things that come with being an expat.
Yeah.
And making new friends, right? Trying to make new connections, and which is super hard.
I moved there with a 4-month-old baby and knew nobody. And then my husband left after 2 weeks. So he left for 3 or 4 months. So it was hard.
But the saving grace, if I recall, because I did come and visit you a couple of times, I think 3 or 4 times while you were there, maybe even more actually, but was really good was you joining some mothers groups.
Yes, I joined a baby group, and actually when I rang, the lady said, oh, there's a lady that lives by you, because I didn't have a car at the time. She says, I'll call her and see if maybe you can get a lift with her to come. So at the time in Malta, there wasn't many groups. There was some in some churches and things, but there wasn't as many, all different things. That sort of came years down the track. So I just threw myself out there. I threw myself into swimming and a babies group, and I met some amazing people there. So this lady picked me up, took me, and from then on, she took me every week until I got a car.
That's really cool. Okay, so let's fast forward. You have baby number 2. You're still living in Malta. And then let's fast forward a little bit. You've done 8 years in Malta. You go through a bit of a tough phase and you come back to Australia with the 2 girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you came up to Brisbane to visit me. And you were in this space of, what on earth am I going to do? I haven't worked for however long. No one's going to hire me. And then I suggested that you start working for me, or with me, really, helping me with my marketing for the coffee shop. And how did that make you feel?
I think I got a little bit of purpose back. But in saying that as well, moving back to a new country, as a single mum, and in my head I haven't worked in what I was meant.
A space that you trained for.
Yeah. So I did the whole uni thing and got my degrees and started, I worked for Yellow Pages. And then, so I did the yachts. Then I was a mum for 8 years, came back, and I just thought to myself, my degrees I did before social media was out. That was like the one thing that sort of stood out to me. And I just thought, you're sort of redundant because you're not part of that anymore. Like my qualifications are like void now. And I've got 2 kids. What am I going to do to get some money? And I just thought, oh, well, I could go to the local coffee shop. I could go down to Bunnings or whatever. And that's not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was the level that I set myself. I didn't think that I could.
Entry level.
Yeah, entry level is where I thought that I had to start again. And I obviously need to earn some money now. I need to be able to support myself. I need to be able to support my children. And it kind of freaked me out that I had to start again. And I didn't think that I had any qualifications or anything to offer somebody or a company. So I felt stuck. And then obviously when you gave me something, it gave me a bit more purpose and something to do or something to work towards, and started to think, okay, well, maybe now I can start adding things to my CV again.
That was kind of, when you think about it, you're a natural creative, that's for sure. I've like always known that, hence why you've even used to put my outfits together when we were overseas, because I'm obviously not that trendy like you. But so you've always been this creative. You had to learn then as well. You were doing all these mini courses and learning all these things at that time as well. So it kind of was an entry level position anyway. As you say, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's perfect. It was a completely different space, really, because the technology has changed, and even the way that we do marketing has, is constantly evolving. So you did pick up a new skill and you had to learn. So I was proud of you right from the start, because I was thinking, you're just throwing yourself in there and you're learning as you go. And you took all the feedback, and it was good for you to have something else other than you didn't have time to wallow in, all the changes or anything negative. You had to just pick yourself up and keep moving. And I think sometimes by having purpose, that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, it was easier. And I think, I don't know if this is a sidebar or whatever, but I'm not a particularly wallowy person. Like I'm pretty logical and I can see what happened and I knew what had to get done. It wasn't like boohoo me. Obviously I had my moments, but I couldn't really see how I was going to make things work. I think that's where sort of the issue laid for me, because as well, I didn't know anyone else that was in the same situation as me and how they got out of it.
I guess the key here is, though, you did self-doubt yourself a little bit, but you overcame it by saying yes, which is, you said yes to me to doing something different, which is taking a small step towards something. And that's what we're always saying here, is just take the small step, take that first step. You doubted yourself, but you just said yes, and then you figured it out, which is great. So then let's talk a little bit about you joining the sisterhood. As I said, you've always been this creative, but what drew you to coming on board and being part of this?
So I saw this as an opportunity to help other women in my situation, alongside what, the type of women you wanted to help as well. And I saw it as a way that I could manage being a mum, be there for my kids, get some freedom. It had the potential to give me what I needed and to help other people, because that's what I like to do, and to do things for other people. And it kept me busy as well. And it was just ideas. And that's what I like to do, and all the creative stuff. Like I was given something that I like to do. So it wasn't something where I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do this and think about something else. It was something that we sort of came up with that was exciting.
And it's something you enjoy, right? I think when you do a job that you're passionate about the cause or the mission, and then you're actually doing your daily tasks and role within that position is something that aligns with you innately. Like this is you being authentic, authentically you doing exactly what you want. And you bring so much to the table to help create and build the sisterhood to help other women. It's pretty exciting.
It is exciting. It's taught me so much doing this. I've learnt so much from all the things that we do and applying things to my own life. I'm sort of like, a work in progress for the sisterhood as well. I mean, we all are, really. So yeah, I love it.
What do you think what has changed for you since starting with the sisterhood for you personally? How do you feel like you've grown or changed or started to thrive?
It's a very simple thing. And I think the thing that I've learned now is I figured out what my values are. And it's made a huge difference in how I say yes and no to things. So from things that happened to me overseas and like working on the yachts and then being in Malta where I was actually stuck and I didn't see a way out. Now in hindsight, I mean, I know hindsight's 2020. However, I didn't actually realize what my values were then. Like, so family's really important to me. And I was just sitting over there missing everybody. But now that I know that family's like, my number one value, then I know I need to be near them. So I should have done something about that. And I didn't, because I didn't want to upset other people or, disrupt something. And I didn't even make a plan to get back home or do that. I just sat there and thought, I wish I could go home. So now that I know that, and I know that, creativity is one. So everything that I do now and any other job that I might take on in this, like I want that to be part of it. I mean, there's other values as well, but it just makes life a lot easier to know where you're going when you know what's important to you.
So recently you took another big leap and you applied for a part-time event planning job. What made you go for that?
So I guess from moving back home, I hadn't really integrated myself back into society. I've come back to where I grew up. But like you said, everyone's sort of doing the same thing. They were all busy. And I just felt like I was losing myself. I wasn't communicating with other adults. I'd sort of look outside and go, yeah, I should go out and do something else. I'm working on the sisterhood all the time, which is brilliant, but it's just me and then it's my kids and then my family is the only people that I sort of saw. And I missed the interaction. I had a lot of interaction when I was traveling, when I was working on the yachts. And I'm an introverted person, but I think I do get my energy from other people. I liked working in an office with the people. I didn't particularly like, the job in the end that I did before. So this opportunity came up. So I went for it and I was like, and I didn't hear back for like weeks. So I'd kind of just let that go. And then they rang me. So I've been doing that only part-time for only a couple of months now, 2 or 3 months, but I can feel a change in myself in that time. And it was the right decision to do that, even if it's not forever. And I think that's the scary part too, is like when I do something, I don't want to let people down. Say I don't want to get the job because then what if I want to quit? I wouldn't quit. Like I just don't have that in me to say I'm going to do something and then let people down as well.
So tell me then, how did it feel walking into an interview after, say, 15 years or so since, your last interview?
Weirdly enough, from doing all this, I just had in my head that they're just people. It doesn't matter the outcome. I had in my head that, the people that I'd be working with are the people that were interviewing me. So if I don't feel comfortable or, they didn't make me feel comfortable, then it wasn't the right job as well. So if I had that in my head, and then when I went in, I got along with the lady really well that was interviewing me. So it came naturally. And I think when I was younger, maybe I would have been more scared or worried about things. Yeah, now, I mean, obviously whoever interviewed me, if they were really intimidating and mean and asking the hard questions, I'd feel differently. But I just sort of had the mindset of I prepared for it, but it is what it is. I can only try my best, and it's, another step forward. So even if I didn't get it, just going for an interview was a step forward.
I kind of like that, the way that you look at that, because as much as they're interviewing you, you're actually interviewing them. And if they're not someone that you want to work with, then you absolutely, you walk out of there head held high and go, that's just not the job for me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did really well. You pushed past a little fear of one, only 6 months ago, also thinking you didn't have the qualifications to even get a job, to embracing, new opportunities and taking a leap and then going for a job and, landing it, which is good. And now you actually enjoy it. You're getting yourself back into the community. You're getting out there dancing. I saw at one of the events. So you're definitely having a good time as well.
Yeah, it's fun. I do enjoy it, and I think I miss the people aspect of life, and that's the other thing that is, if you do enjoy something, you've just got to find a way to do it. And like I said, this isn't my forever thing, but it was a way for me to integrate back into the local community here, and I think it's working.
Well, that's the problem too with working from home. Like, I do that a lot too, is work from home, obviously. And a lot of the work is online. And although I speak to people, as like you and I speak almost every day, so you are getting lots of interaction with me. But, I definitely thrive off being in the space of other people live, or even having a pizza and a wine with you last weekend it makes me thrive. It makes me happy. It fills my cup. But like, similar to you, there's a big difference to working online and communicating and connecting with people there. And if that's the only opportunity you have, that's great. And you should definitely do it. You can get stuck in the space of staying in the house and not getting out and seeing people. So like even dragging yourself to the gym or striking up a conversation in the supermarket, those things are important. Or even walking the dog, striking up a conversation with somebody else. Like, I feel like it's a quality that's starting to get lost. So, people being able to communicate with people, you need to focus on that a little bit.
I think for sure it's like a bad habit. Like I said, I'd be like, do I go out? No, because I can wear my pajamas at home. That means I have to get dressed, to go and speak to people. I'll just sort of do it later. And it's like say maths or something. You've got to keep your brain going. And I think with communication as well, you've got to keep it up and you've got to keep speaking to people, and it just gets easier. And I think the less you do it, then you just sort of turn off a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and that's how you can lose yourself and it becomes lonely.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk a little bit about the juggle, single mum life, a new job, sisterhood,
Yeah.
and everything
Yeah.
else. What has been the toughest part of balancing it all?
Mum guilt for sure. Number one.
So what strategies have helped you manage the mum guilt and, and all these responsibilities?
I don't think I've got there yet. So obviously I've got my family around me who help, and they're happy to help, but I'm the kind of person that does everything myself. So it's difficult to ask for help. And then when they do help, I'm like, oh, I should be doing it. So trying to do that, trying to get to the supermarket, then coming home later, and then obviously then like trying to cook dinner or something. So dinners have definitely fallen by the wayside. Like I still feed my kids, but it's not the meals that I'd like to be cooking. Like still healthy, but it's more like chopped up salad, and I make something and keep it in the fridge and then cook it instead of, I like to cook. So that's one thing that's sort of bugging me about this. I haven't quite figured out how to balance it. I haven't quite figured out how to do all the washing on time. Just things that I had a bit more time for. And I know lots of working mums are like that. So
you're human then?
yes, I'm human, and I think I'm a bit of a control freak. So like I said, I want to do everything, and there isn't enough hours in the day. So I'm trying to figure out what's more important. And I know my kids are important. So, you know, spending time with them means that the washing doesn't get done or something. And having a dirty house gives me anxiety. So I'm trying to balance that with, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter. I don't know if anyone's got any tips for that. That would be great.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I've talked about it before, like in that this particular job, and yes, you're feeling the mum guilt, but it seems like a long time because it's, you know, 6 to 9 months of your life, but in the length of your two girls' lives, it's just a little speck on the entire journey of their life, which is what I'm trying to remind you of. But I know that doesn't really necessarily help you right now, but it's just for me to try to say to you that they won't notice it so much in the future. It's not going to completely change their life working 3 or 4 months. But you still make it to everything. You're still getting to the good thing about your job is that, and I think this is a strategy that you've done. You might not notice it so much, but you do have some boundaries. And, you know, you say to work, I can't, you know, work this particular day because I need to go to the school carnival or the swimming carnival for one of my daughters and things like that. So, you know, you might not notice it, but you are setting boundaries and you are still making things happen. And when you say prioritizing, well, things like the washing, I mean, apart from the fact that you need to make sure you've got some smalls to wear at some point, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not the priority, is it?
No, it's not. It's just what I'm used to. And I think this is a new way of doing things, which it's like forming a new habit. There's just different ways that you've got to do things. But I think as well, especially here in Australia, I'm really grateful for the sort of understanding of having children at work too. So, you know, during the holidays, I can bring the kids in and the other people bring their kids in as well, and they can all hang out. Like, people understand that. Or my youngest is starting prep next year, so she went to her primary school like for 2 Wednesdays. So obviously I came in later. I do lots of overtime, so I do make it up. But those things I think would kill me if I couldn't be there for the big things. And so my youngest just turned 5, and we had a 2-day conference, and on a Friday and Saturday, and her birthday was on Friday. So I ended up telling her that her birthday was on Sunday so that I could spend it with her, because I knew I'd miss Friday. So that was a big thing, but she didn't know, and my oldest daughter played along. So that was good. Some things you can't help, but it's definitely made it easier being in a role where people understand family life as well, because
And it comes back to knowing your values. Your values,
yeah,
as you said, your number one value is spending time with family. It's like, you know, so I think if we're talking about strategies, it's adjusting your expectations and also just rewriting your story.
yeah.
You know, like there's such important little things that you can do. So, I mean, I think you've done an amazing job. As I always tell you, you've come so far thinking you couldn't get hired to now thriving in multiple roles. What do you think has been the biggest shift in your mindset, Junior?
That things are possible, and that if I want something, then I just have to, you know, make a plan, but it is like consistent steps towards it. It's not like you just get it, but I can see now with what I'm doing, I can see the way that I'm moving.
The progress.
Yeah, I don't feel that I'm sitting in a stagnant place. And I think that's where I didn't ever want to end up. And I think my mindset is now that I'll find something that I need to do, and there's always a way to do it.
A lot of the audience that listens to this, some of them are in a similar position that they may feel stuck or even scared to try something new. What advice would you give them?
I mean, you can even take a side step, just pivot slowly, you know, which is what I feel like I've done. I've been back here for 2 years, and someone once said to me is that you're not going to just fit right back in. It's going to take you 2 years. And before that 2 years, I was like, it better not take 2 years. But it has, and it has been 2 years on now, and I finally feel that I've done lots in between, but it's been lots of little steps. And I guess my advice would be is to figure out what's important to you, and then figure out what you want, or even just one thing, or what you're doing, and then just as opportunities come, think about it and just say yes or no if it's heading in that direction. And I think it just comes, because like this job, it was an opportunity and I could have just said no. But when I thought about it and I thought about what it means to me, it's like, it's not my dream job, but I enjoy it. And it wasn't really a job that I necessarily needed. You know, I've got the sisterhood and things like that, but I needed that connection, and I knew I needed that connection with the community. So I said yes and went for it. And I feel like it has been the right decision. And the thing is that I could quit if I wanted to. And that's the thing that I've sort of learned as well. If it's not right for me, then don't do it. Trying to make other people happy and trying to do what I think is expected of me isn't going to help me anymore. So I'm just going to help myself.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, let's have some fun. What is the craziest thing that we've ever done together? And you need to keep it PG-ish.
The craziest thing, you've put me on the spot.
You're going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, actually, it was this. Actually, it was this. Was it the Hava drug spiking? Was it sleeping at the train station? Was it walking the streets of Croatia trying to find accommodation literally where there was nothing, and knocking on doors to ask people if we could give them 20 euros to sleep on the floor? Or
Barricading our hotel room at Hotel Toby
Jamaica?
in Jamaica, because there was, yeah, weirdos. There's been a lot. And I think if I can't think of thing, I think one of my favorite ones though was going to New York for your 30th. We did the Sex in the City.
Sure.
Yeah, we did heaps of stuff on that trip. That was fun.
One of us ended up with a black eye.
Yeah, yes, not me.
Oh, that's so funny. All right.
That was fun. I don't know. What do you think is the craziest thing or the funnest?
We have fun everywhere we go. What I love about our friendship is that we complement each other. So if I can't handle a situation, you step up and take it. I'm super protective of you, but you are of me, but we just show it in different ways. And so when we travel together, but even in life in general, we support each other through everything. And I think the friendship is just so, we just complement each other in so many ways. And it's one of those things it's an unconditional relationship. So fun is easy, to the point where you're like, let's go out and have fun. Can you talk to the random people at the bar just so we've got people to have conversations with? Do you remember that in Santorini?
Yeah.
You know, like I said, sleeping in train stations. I remember cracking the sads with each other and sitting on opposite sides of the train because I've got a photo of it and neither of us are talking to each other. Or the time that you booked a flight and we missed it. Was it because it was the wrong day? Do you remember when we were going to Switzerland?
Yeah, it was the wrong day. We're going to Portugal, I think, from Switzerland, and it was the wrong day. So I got on the internet because we didn't have internet on our phones. And funnily enough, the cheapest flight was, remember, to Sardinia.
Yeah.
And then we met somebody that we knew on the flight, or that I knew, and that snowballed actually my whole life, that flight, which was quite weird.
But Lauren, you've showed so much strength and courage. Just, I want to tell you that I'm really proud of you. But thanks for sharing your story with our listeners as well. I think for all the women listening, remember to just take a chance. And even though it might feel scary, it could lead to something quite amazing.
Yeah, and if you think, yeah, you don't have time, or you can't fit it in, or you do something, you actually always make it work.
You've just got to back yourself.
Yeah, because I had doubts. How am I going to do this? How am I going to pick up my kids? How am I going to, yes, clean? How am I going to cook? Do whatever. But I wouldn't swap it for the world. I wouldn't go back to not doing it. But, you know, something else will come up and I'll say yes to that.
Thanks for tuning in. And as always, share your thoughts in the Sisterhood Lounge Room. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.